Warning, the following fic contains themes that some viewers might find offensive. Viewer discretion is advised. If you are offended, don't say we didn't warn you.
Should old acquaintance be forgotten, never brought to mind? Should old acquaintance be forgotten, days of old lang syne? For old lang syne, my dear, for old lang syne, we'll take a cup of kindness yet for days of old lang syne.
Later that day, back at Sweet Apple Acres, Twilight, Applejack, Rainbow Dash, Fluttershy, Pinkie Pie, and Rarity gathered in the warmth of the kitchen. They sat 3 to each bench, while Spike perched on a stool at the head of the table, all holding steaming mugs of cocoa. The smell of Sugar Belle's latest confectionery delight emanated from the oven, but did little to relieve the fresh unease that had settled over them.
I still don't get it.
Rainbow Dash passed her mug from hoof to hoof in a repetitive motion.
Why would some pony give these weird, creepy gifts? And why only to certain ponies? I mean, torn out hair? Freaking hair?
What color was it?
Fluttershy asked softly.
What?
Rainbow Dash wrinkled her nose.
Why does that matter? It's hair. Torn out by its roots. Twilight said.
I didn't actually see it,
Twilight murmured.
but I was told it was purple hair.
So, a pony with purple hair is missing a chunk of it.
Rainbow Dash deadpanned.
Guess we should just look for someone in town with an awful new haircut and ask them why they're sending creepy gifts, huh?
Rainbow Dash, you're being obtuse.
Rarity sipped her cocoa delicately.
I am not,
Rainbow Dash paused.
I think.
She looked at Applejack.
Am I?
Depends on who you ask, Sugar Cube.
Rarity frowned into her mug.
These gifts were clearly deliberate. There's intention here. I think even if it's odd, Sweetie Belle and Apple Bloom got 2 halves of a leg warmer that matches the whole one Apple Bloom received, which could indicate these things all came from the same pony.
Or creature. A pony would own leg warmers, but it might be someone else who sent them to us.
Which is all kinds of creepy.
Applejack opined.
Sending torn up clothes, personal objects that clearly belong to someone else, plus a clump of hair? That's a heck of a message to send.
But what is the message?
Rarity frowned deeper, as if all the answers could be found in the chocolatey dregs sinking to the bottom of her mug.
And who did these things belong to originally? One pony or many?
We should make a list of all the ponies in town with purple in their mane or tail.
Spike's eyes latched onto Rarity's curls for a moment before sliding hastily away.
Right?
That sounds like a logical approach. It's certainly some place to start until Celestia and Luna get back to us.
Twilight stirred her cocoa absent-mindedly, brows furrowed.
Rarity, you aren't missing any hair, are you?
Certainly not, darling. And I would have noticed if someone had torn out a clump while I was sleeping. What about yourself?
No, I'm not missing any either.
Twilight lit her horn and brought over a quill and sheet of paper.
So let's start with all the other ponies in town we can name with purple hair.
Starlight Glimmer!
Pinkie Pie said immediately.
Except we know she was fine. And with us, the night these gifts arrived with Bonbon, Lyra, and the rest, no missing hair. Berry Punch. And her daughter, Berry Pinch.
Fluttershy offered.
Amethyst Star?
Twilight remembered the mayor who had, apparently, harbored a secret resentment of her for organizing so many things in Ponyville after her arrival and stealing her thunder.
Diamond Tiara and her mom spoiled rich. They both got purple in their remains.
Does Nurse Snowheart still work at the hospital?
Nah, she transferred to Manhattan General before last Hearthswarming.
Applejack narrowed her eyes at the sheet.
Is that it? Surely we got more purple-maned ponies in town than just those.
I don't think so.
Fluttershy read it over.
But
She shivered.
I can't help feeling like...
Like we're missing some pony?
Rarity finished for her.
Yes, I feel that way too. Pinkie Pie, darling, you know literally every pony in town from your birthday files. Have we missed anyone?
Pinkie tugged at her chin in thought, tongue sticking out, as if the effort of casting her mind through her inventory filled her head so much that there was no more room for it inside her mouth.
No! That's all the purple ponies whose parties I planned. Alliteration is fun.
Her attempt at levity sank like a stone into deep water.
Can we list all the gifts we know of and see if we can figure anything out from them?
That's a good idea, Fluttershy. Spike, we need another sheet of paper.
Laboriously, they listed out everything they knew of so far. It was a horribly incomplete list, which made the organizational part of Twilight's brain itch. But it was the best they had to work with at present, and just sitting doing nothing was unthinkable. Eventually, Applejack sighed and rubbed her forehead.
Well, that's a whole heap of creepy, if you ask me. But I can't see no pattern between them all. Kinda giving me a headache even trying to figure it out, to be honest.
Twilight took a slow sip of her cocoa. A headache nudged at the back of her eyes, too.
There is a pattern. Somewhere. The items, the timing, the recipients. It's subtle, but it's there. There has to be a pattern. We just aren't seeing it yet. But we had to figure out what it's pointing to before anything else happens.
Anything worse?
Rainbow Dash groaned.
Ugh, great. So now instead of sledding all day, we get to play detective. Super not what I wanted to do with my time off from the Wonderbolts.
Twilight's eyes softened as she looked at her friend's morose expressions. These were some of the most important ponies in the world to her. The thought of anyone ever meaning them harm, however convoluted their message may be, made her want to wrap them all in cotton wool just to keep them safe.
I know it's frustrating, but if we understand this, we can stop it. Or at least protect the ponies in my target next.
Spike's ear fronds drooped.
Do you really think it's dangerous?
Twilight set her mug down with a quiet clink.
I don't know yet, but I do know that the first step is figuring out the logic behind these gifts, and I'll get to the bottom of it.
Applejack gave a heavy nod.
Then we'll help however we can. Ponyville's lucky to have you here for this, Twilight.
Yeah,
Rainbow Dash stopped rubbing her temples to smile at her.
your brain can brain anything, egghead.
Twilight felt a small weight settle in her chest. Not relief, exactly, but something warmer. It was the trust her friends had in her. It gave her focus. She could not let them down. She took a deep breath, ready to start piecing together the mystery, one strange gift at a time. However, by bedtime, the mystery had yielded no answers, just more headaches from overthinking things. With no reply from Celestia or Luna beyond the brief acknowledgement of their earlier letter, everyone was reluctantly forced to call it a night. Hearthswarming Eve awaited them tomorrow. The town square would soon be filled with carols and laughter as the school children performed their hearthwarming play, and the carol concert brought every pony together to celebrate. They needed to rest up for the celebrations. Even the most persistent worry could wait until then. Twilight, Spike, and their friends settled once more into the living room, blankets and pillows strewn about, recreating the comfortable, makeshift camp they had enjoyed the previous night. The rest of the Apple family headed upstairs to their bedrooms, bidding them good night with sleepy smiles and the faintest hint of unease about the mysterious gifts that Sugarbelle did her best to shoo away with her bright smile and positive attitude. The night stretched quietly around the sitting room, and soft snoring began to punctuate the stillness as Rainbow Dash, Applejack, Fluttershy, Rarity, and even Spike succumbed to exhaustion. Twilight lay on her side, blanket tucked around her, eyes open and staring at the ceiling. The peaceful hush of the room did little to calm her racing thoughts. Every detail of the strange gifts, the recipients, and the patterns she had been trying to piece together swirled through her mind in a relentless loop. She knew she should sleep, but her brain refused to switch off. She could not help feeling like, if she did not figure this out, something more terrible than the gifts would happen. Yet, when she even tried to predict what, her thoughts slid away like water off duck feathers, and the tension headache behind her eyes intensified further. When Twilight felt that familiar tingle in her horn, signaling that it was nearly time to raise the sun, her eyes widened at the realization that she had been awake all night. She pushed herself up from the blankets, careful not to disturb the others, and crept quietly out of the sitting room. Maybe a little fresh air would settle her. Alicorns were stronger and more resilient than regular ponies, but an all-nighter was still an all-nighter, and her head really did ache. Frosty air greeted her on the porch. The orchard stretched out in muted shades of silver and blue under the waning moonlight. Twilight drew a slow breath, letting the chill prick her senses as she tried to steady herself. Her anxiety coiled like a restless snake. She let herself feel it fully for just a moment, willing herself to acknowledge the fear that came with responsibilities, the weight of expectations laid upon her by her role as princess, but also her role as a friend. Just for a heartbeat, she let herself simply exist in that quiet, alone and processing the solitary prelude to dawn. On impulse, she brought up a foreleg, sucking in a deep lungful of air as she did so, then let it out slowly, pushing outward with her hoof. Cadence's calming technique had gotten a lot of play in the year Twilight had been in charge of Equestria. A scream slashed the air. Twilight's ears flattened against her skull. The scream, raw and ragged, came again. She traced it to an upstairs bedroom and flew up to it in an instant, levitating the window open and darting inside. Big Mac and Sugarbelle sat upright in their bed. He had one strong foreleg wrapped around his wife, who shook with violent sobs. A horribly familiar red gift box lay on the floor, its lid a small distance away where it had popped off when it was thrown. Twilight met Big Mac's gaze. He looked down at Sugarbelle, then back at Twilight, and nodded, confirming without words that the gift had been hers. Twilight's magic hovered over the box, gently lifting it for inspection. What she found made her gorge rise. Inside were teeth with bloody roots still attached, and what looked like half a jawbone. Twilight's mind whirred as she carefully set the box back down. She felt Big Mac's solid presence behind her, and Sugarbelle's sobbing against his chest, the weight of their fear pressing down on her own chest like a stone. This was no longer a mysteriously unsettling puzzle. This had just crossed the line into something malevolent and dangerous. She turned to Big Mac and Sugarbelle.
You're both safe.
She said, deliberately keeping her voice more composed than her brain.
I need you to stay calm. I'll figure this out. I promise. I won't let anything hurt you.
The room was quiet, except for Sugarbelle's sobs. Twilight set her jaw. Whoever was behind these gifts had crossed a line. This was no longer a puzzle to solve. It was a threat she had to confront, and she had to do it before more ponies were hurt. She glanced at the box.
Who do those jaw and teeth belong to?
By the time the rest of the farmhouse had stirred and gathered in the kitchen, word of Sugarbelle's horrific gift had spread. Twilight was still deciding how to address it when a sharp, insistent knocking rattled the front door. Applejack went to answer. There on the porch stood Carrot Top from the neighbouring farm, mane in disarray and expression dark with fury. Her breath steamed in the cold morning air. In front of her sat one of the red gift boxes, ribbon askew and indented where she had carried it here in her teeth.
I don't know what game you think you're playing, Apple Farmer, but it stops now.
Carrot Top snapped before Applejack could say a word.
Tell your neon eyesore of a girlfriend that it's not funny to go sneaking around in the night, flying in the windows, and leaving this kind of filth in ponies' houses!
Applejack was taken aback.
What in the quest are you talking about? This ain't us. We ain't pranked no pony. In fact, we've been trying to... Oof.
Carrot Top rolled her eyes, picked up the gift box, and shoved it against Applejack's chest, knocking the breath out of her.
Whatever. Take this back and tell Rainbow Dash that Pegasus humor isn't funny.
What? Now, hold on a second.
But Carrot Top had already turned on her heel and stalked off down the snowy path, muttering several invectives about tasting colours that made Applejack's cheeks colour up. Twilight approached as Applejack closed the door and gingerly held the box away from her. Applejack's nose wrinkled, and when she drew closer, Twilight could tell why. This box gave off a ripe stink even at a distance.
Do you want me to open it?
Best let the others see too.
Applejack trotted stiffly on 3 legs back to the kitchen, muttering about Carrot Top not knowing a gosh darn thing about gosh darn anything. It was the work of a few moments to bring their friends up to speed. Twilight's horn glowed as she loosened the lid and lifted it back. The smell, already strong, wafted out with such force that Rarity instantly gagged.
Is that?
Inside lay a chunk of bloody flesh the colour of spilled wine. It glistened wetly, almost accusingly. Twilight swallowed her gorge.
It's a kidney.
Her eyes flicked over what she had previously only seen in biology textbooks.
It wasn't removed cleanly. See here? No cut marks. This was pulled out of whatever creature it came from.
For a long, terrible moment, no pony spoke. The quiet creak of the farmhouse and the wind outside were the only sounds. Twilight finally lowered the lid. They wrote once again to Celestia and Luna, gathered around the kitchen table. This morning, none of Sugarbelle's sweet creations baked in the oven. The air held no sweet spice, only the redolence of old blood. Spike rolled up the scroll when it was done, gave a nervous glance to the others, then sent it away in a plume of green fire. We all watched the last flecks of smoke curl toward the rafters and vanish.
Do you think they'll answer soon?
I hope so. They must be busy. Maybe there are reports coming in from other regions. Ponyville might not be the only place where this is happening.
But even as Twilight spoke, unease gnawed at her. It wasn't like Celestia and Luna to remain silent this long, not when something this unsettling was going on.
Spike, write to Raven Inkwell back in Carolot. privately. Ask her whether anything strange like this is happening there too.
On it.
She rose from the table and moved to the frosted window, staring out toward the snow-covered orchard where the trees stood still and dark beneath the pale morning sun.
They're right back.
Rarity said from behind her, trying to sound sure. She held a tiny bottle of smelling salts beneath her nose.
They always do.
Twilight nodded, but her reflection in the glass looked less certain. Though she would never admit it aloud, fear gripped her tight. Should she head back to Canterlot herself? Would that be the better thing to do? Or would leaving Ponyville now, when the mystery gifts were amping up to evidence of such violence, leave the town vulnerable?
I wonder.
Applejack said slowly.
You wonder what, darling?
If Sugarbelle and Carrot Top both got boxes last night, what if there were more? Maybe half the town woke up to something awful and we just ain't heard or tell of it yet.
The others exchanged uneasy glances. Rainbow Dash straightened, her wings twitching restlessly.
You think this is spreading?
She snorted, as if blowing grass from her nostrils.
Fine. Guess there's one way to find out. I'm sick of hanging around here sitting on my wings anyhow.
Applejack stood, grabbing her outdoor clothes from the peg by the door.
I'm going into town. Gonna ask around, see who else got something odd. No sense sitting here worrying when we could be learning something useful.
Rainbow swooped to her side, tugging on her own scarf and hat with a smirk that did not quite hide her concern.
I'm coming with you, in case any weird,
She hesitated, then corrected herself.
in case any more weird stuff happens.
No, appreciate it, Sugar Cube.
The two ponies stepped out into the cold, their hoof steps crunching through the snow as they made their way down the lane toward Ponyville. The sitting room was quiet, save for the crackle of flames in the hearth. Those who had remained at Sweet Apple Acres gathered around the fire, its warmth doing little to ease the chill that had settled over them. On the couch, Sugarbelle had fallen asleep, worn out by tears, her head pillowed against Big Mac's broad chest as he dozed beside her. A sudden whump of green fire broke the stillness. Spike's throat bulged and his burp materialized a scroll. Unfortunately, since he was facing the hearth, it was flung straight toward the flames.
No!
Twilight's aura grabbed it in midair.
Phew!
She brought it toward her and saw that it was wrapped in a golden ribbon pressed with the familiar sun and moon seal.
It's from Celestia and Luna!
Fluttershy pressed a hoof to her mouth. Even Rarity, normally so composed, leaned forward anxiously. On the couch, Sugarbelle and Big Mac sat upright, blinking, while Granny Smith perched on the edge of her now still rocking chair.
Well, you done well waited a dragon's age for a reply. Don't dilly-dally, girl. Open it!
Twilight broke the seal and began to read aloud.
To my dearest Twilight, please forgive the delay in our response. Luna and I left for Canterlot the moment we received your first letter. The situation you described gave us both great concern, and we wanted to examine the royal archives for ourselves. We are more familiar with its organizational system than any Canterlot scholar, so we felt doing our own research would be most expedient. Plus, Luna's hooves have been itching to get away from Silver Shoals for a while. She says the senior citizens cheat at Canasta. Our return to the capital did not go unnoticed. Within an hour of our arrival, word had spread among the nobility and administration. We were soon besieged by ministers, scholars, courtiers, and noble ponies eager to interpret our presence as a sign of our resumed rule in your absence. I confess, my patience was tested, though Luna took a certain wry amusement in their panicked eagerness. It seems you have been making a few changes that they feel have treated them unfairly and wanted to leverage myself and Luna to make you reverse them. Needless to say, I disabused them of this notion rather quickly. You are the Princess of Equestria now, not us. Your rule is law whether the nobles like paying higher taxes to pay for elder care and nursery places for underprivileged foals or not. Despite the constant interruptions, we have dedicated ourselves to the search. The accounts you described, spontaneous appearance of inexplicable items that carry no recognizable magical signature, but can get past warding spells cast by an alicorn, bear no resemblance to any of the modern texts we have read. Though some obscure phenomena recorded in the late pre-classical period have a few things in common with your reports. Unfortunately, most of those texts are fragmentary, and none describe the same pattern repeating across multiple recipients over consecutive nights. We are considering two possibilities. One, that the gifts are manifestations of residual or displaced magic seeking restitution. Two, that they are deliberate messages sent by an intelligence capable of traversing magical thresholds without leaving trace signatures. Both avenues are troubling. The only being I have ever known to traverse magical thresholds and break wards so easily is Discord, and even his work leaves trace amounts of chaos magic behind on a molecular level. Please, do not attempt anything dramatic until we have learned more. Observe, record, and most importantly, keep yourself and your friends safe. Ponyville weathered much under your guidance before you were a princess, my dear Twilight, and I trust in your judgment to lead it now as well. Luna joins me in sending her affection and assures you that she is watching the dreamscape closely for disturbances. We will write again by nightfall when our findings are clearer. With love and faith always, Celestia. P.S. Raven Inkwell received a letter from Spike earlier today asking whether Kennerlot has experienced anything like what is happening in Ponyville. I can confirm for you now that it has not, nor has any other city in Equestria. This is localized entirely in Ponyville. P.P.S. Though it may seem slightly inappropriate given the circumstances, happy Hearthswarming.
Twilight lowered the scroll slowly. The light from the fire flickered across her face, highlighting the worry etched there.
They've been in Kennerlot since the day before yesterday. That's why they've been silent. They've been researching all this time.
And they couldn't think to tell y'all? Well, that's just rude.
Pinkie Pie fidgeted with her mug of cocoa.
Residual magic? Messages from something smart enough to send them? That doesn't sound very Hearthswarming-y.
Fluttershy's ears drooped.
Do you think the whatever it is knows what it's doing? Or that it's just lost?
Twilight stared into the flames.
That's what I intend to find out.
Rarity sighed.
Let us hope Celestia and Luna send more than riddles next time.
No one disagreed.
It couldn't be Discord, could it?
Spike asked pensively.
I mean, Celestia mentioned him being able to, traverse magical boundaries and break ward spells?
No. I'm familiar with his magical signature. He didn't do this.
He wouldn't do something this awful.
Wouldn't he?
Sugarbelle croaked.
I've heard stories of the things he used to do in the past. Turning ponies to glass, taking away Pegasus wings and unicorn horns, setting ponies on fire, and laughing as they realized they weren't burning to death.
He wouldn't do anything like that anymore. He's reformed, and I know he wouldn't hurt me, not in a million years.
Says the pony who's got a ledger instead of a body part.
Hush now, Sugar.
Big Mac pulled her close.
Remember what Granny said about backbiting. We ain't each other's enemies in here.
It's the enemies out there I'm worried about.
Again, no one disagreed. The clock ticked on, steady as a heartbeat. Outside, the wind began to rise, carrying wisps of snow through the bare apple trees, whose branches waved as if trying to catch the attention of the merrily twinkling pine tree in the sitting room. It was Hearthswarming Eve, but things felt as far from festive as was possible to be. The front door banged open with a gust of cold air and a flurry of snowflakes. Applejack and Rainbow Dash stepped in, stamping their hooves and shaking the chill from their coats. Twilight looked up from where she sat rereading Celestia's letter. At the sound of the front door, Applebloom came running downstairs, Winona on her heels. The faithful dog barked happily at Applejack's return, jumping up to lick her face before moving on to slobber over Rainbow Dash as well.
Sis, you're back.
Applebloom cried.
And you look mad.
I ain't mad, Sugar Cube.
Applejack reassured her, though her expression belied this declaration.
Can you go help Sugar Belle in the kitchen while we talk to Twilight, please?
Sugar Belle ain't baked the thing all day.
Then, can you go get your costume ready for the Hearthswarming play?
It's already ready.
Kid, she's trying to tell you this is an adult talk in a way that doesn't hurt your feelings.
Rainbow Dash said bluntly.
Oh, I guess I'll just go make sure my buttons are still sewn on. Come on, Winona. Scribbler and Sweetabelle will be here soon to walk into town for our last rehearsal. No, you can't come, girl.
After they had climbed the stairs, Applejack walked up to her friends with a grim expression.
You might want to sit down for this.
Rainbow did not bother sitting. She hovered a few feet above the floor, jaw tight and eyes hard.
We went all over town. Every pony we talked to, every single one, got a box either last night or the night before.
Twilight's stomach dropped.
All of them?
Near as we can tell.
Applejack rubbed her foreleg.
We kept a list as we went. No pony could recall a giftless night in their house, and it didn't matter how old or young they were, they all got something.
Quill scratched hurriedly across parchment as Twilight's horn flared to jot down their findings, but her concentration faltered when Rainbow Dash's tone darkened.
And it's not just the numbers. There's a pattern. The ones who got their boxes the nights before last, their gifts were weird, sure, but not depraved. Stuff that didn't make much sense, like what Big Mac, Granny Smith, and Applebloom got. But the ones who got them last night...
RD!
Applejack warned sharply.
Last night, every pony's gift was like sugar bells and carrot tops. Internal organs, chunks of flesh, a popped eyeball, severed...
Rainbow Dash!
Applejack cut in firmly, stepping between her and the sofa where Sugarbelle and Big Mac sat. Sugarbelle's eyes were wide and wet.
That's enough!
Rainbow deflated.
Right, yeah. Sorry.
She landed heavily.
Just pony feathers, Twilight. It's bad out there.
Applejack nodded grimly.
Reckon we've got ourselves a pattern, and it ain't one I like much. First night, all gifts, but just to us 6. Second night, all gifts to ponies beyond our circle. Third night, gruesome ones to pretty much everyone else in town. If that keeps up...
She trailed off, her voice low. Twilight folded Celestia's letter carefully, thoughts sprinting laps around the inside of her skull.
And tonight might be worse.
Fluttershy whimpered softly, and Rarity pressed a trembling hoof to her heart.
Speaking of tonight...
Applejack took off her hat and turned it absently in her hooves before continuing.
Mayor Mare's decided to go on with the school's Hearthswarming play and carol concert in the town square tonight, despite all this hullabaloo. Says canceling it would just spook ponies worse.
Twilight gaped.
She's still holding them? After everything that's happened?
Yep. Reckons it'll lift folks' spirits. A show of unity in uncertain times, she called it. Can't say I don't see her point. Ponies need something familiar and good right about now. But I also can't shake the feeling it's a bad idea.
Fluttershy fidgeted with her mane, eyes darting toward the frosted window panes.
Do you think it's safe to go?
No.
Rainbow said flatly.
But if every pony else does, we can't just hide here. If something does happen, some ponies gotta be there to stop it. We may not be the elements of harmony anymore, but we're still Equestria's heroes, right?
Twilight looked between them all.
You're right, Rainbow. Mayor Mare may have good intentions, but we'll need to stay alert. If this phenomenon escalates again tonight, we need to be able to protect the ponies who need us. Who need me.
She added privately.
I'm their princess. They're my responsibility.
Rarity gave a delicate shudder.
Darling, you make it sound as though something dreadful is about to happen in public. All the gift-giving has been veiled in secrecy thus far.
Twilight did not answer. Her gaze lingered on the window, where the snow outside was falling more thickly now, blanketing Applejack and Rainbow Dash's hoofprints up to the house, as if they had never been there at all. Snow crunched under hoof as the group made their way down the main path into Ponyville's town square. Lanterns glowed in soft golds and reds, their light hazy through the gentle flurry that had begun to fall. The air was sharp with winter and the faint scents of pine and chocolate that strengthened the closer they got. Every year, the Ponyville Hearthswarming Eve play and carol concert brought the town together in the same way. Ponies and other creatures of all kinds gathered in the town square, voices raised in song. It was a moment to celebrate the year past, to share in community, and to remember that the smallest gestures, a song, a smile, a hug, could carry more meaning than even the grandest plans, just as they had a millennia ago, when Smart Cookie, Private Pansy, and Clover the Clever had beaten back the Wendigos and planted the seeds that would become Equestria. Or, at least, that had been the plan. The town's hearth-swarming tree stood proudly at the centre of the square, its lower branches draped with ribbons and tinsel, the top decorated with stars and plaited clouds. Around it, ponies milled about, some laughing, some only pretending to. There was an edge to the chatter that had not been there the year prior, Twilight noted. The festivities had drawn a crowd, though the atmosphere was subdued. She got the feeling more than a few ponies had been chivied out of their houses against their will under the guise of hearth-swarming spirit. She wondered how many more were still cowering inside their homes, thinking of the red gift boxes they had thrown in the trash.
Does Apple Bloom have a role in the hearth-swarming play this year?
Rarity asked, clearly just for something to say.
She's Earth Pony Peasant number 4.
Applejack replied.
I made her costume.
Granny Smith added.
Cannibalized one of my old dresses to make it.
Rarity winced.
I'm sure it's lovely, Granny Smith.
Darn tootin'. Won't be a patch on whatever you made for Sweetie Belle, but I figured even I could handle 30 rigs with a rope belt.
Scoots is Pegasus Guard number 6.
Rainbow grunted.
Her aunt's made her costume. Catch me sewing.
Rarity pinned her with a disapproving look.
Sweetie Belle is background unicorn number 3. It would have been nice if she could have followed in my footsteps and played Princess Platinum, but alas, it was not meant to be.
Scoots said their teacher has it in for them. Thinks they're too big for their britches after all the cool stuff they've done for Equestria. And, being related to us.
Oh, that can't be right.
Twilight protested.
I thought their teacher loved the CMC.
Mr. Harbright?
Applejack snorted.
No, that old picklepuss can't stand any pony more interesting than cardboard. Likes life nice and boring.
Twilight frowned.
I could have sworn they had a mare teacher.
A jab of pain flickered behind her eyes.
Ow!
Mare? No, they've always had stallions up at the school. Right back to when I was there myself.
That did not sound right, though Twilight could not fathom why. Her tension headache threatened to return, presumably from all the stress of the day. She briefly considered casting a short healing spell on herself when Rainbow Dash cried out.
There they are! I see them! Hi, Scoots! Over here!
Twilight trotted alongside Fluttershy as Rainbow, Applejack, and Rarity hurried ahead of the group. Spike sat perched on her back, and behind them came Pinkie Pie and the rest of the Apple family following in a small knot, Sugar Belle's expression still strained, despite her best efforts to smile. The Cutie Mark Crusaders, already dressed in their costumes, bounded to greet their sisters, laughter echoing brighter than any of the lanterns. It warmed Twilight's chest to see something normal, This was what Hearthswarming was really about. Children's innocent happiness as they enjoyed the peace that the ponies they were commemorating for creating a country where they could enjoy it, not potentially murderous mysteries and invisible pranksters with sick senses of humour. Still, as they reached the edge of the square, Twilight felt all eyes turn toward her. Ponies began to nudge each other. She caught fragments of whispers.
Maybe she knows what's going on.
Maybe she can find out who sent those horrible gifts.
Twilight forced a smile and inclined her head politely to ponies as they passed, not slowing down or stopping until they reached the centre of the town square, where a stage had been set up at the base of the Hearthswarming tree. Mayor Mare stood upon it, speaking with a few of her aides about the programme order. When she spotted Twilight, she gave an overly bright wave that drew yet more eyes the Alicorn's way. Applejack gave Twilight a sidelong look.
Well, reckon we're the main attraction now.
Seems that way.
Twilight looked up at the star on top of the tree.
Let's just try to make this night feel like Hearthswarming again.
Sounds good to me, Sugar Cube. Abbi and her friends are all headed backstage, so they should get started soon.
They joined the others near the front as Mayor Mare ceded her position to a small piebald colt dressed in the narrator's costume. He stepped up to the microphone, which was far too tall for him, and hop-skipped a few times before a green magical aura lowered it for him. He nodded gratefully behind him. Twilight spotted Sweetie Belle withdrawing back into the wings with an encouraging smile. Watching a Hearthswarming play acted by foals was a palate-cleansing experience. Their bad acting was matched only by their youthful enthusiasm. When the filly playing Princess Platinum tripped over her own skirts, the audience waited with bated breath for her to get back to her hooves to finish her speech, and then applauded. When the colt playing Smart Cookie got a few lines wrong and panicked, a nasally southern voice from the peasantry behind him fed him his lines until he got his confidence back. It was adorable, and by the end, Twilight felt her spirits had lifted a little. The little fillies and colts stood many minutes for their applause, and then retreated backstage again, happily chattering about their success. Mayor Mare's aides came to clear away the scenery as she made another speech praising the school and Mr. Hardbright for organising such a lovely rendition of the Hearthswarming tale. Twilight frowned again at the teacher's name. For some reason that sounded so wrong, but no pony else around her was reacting to it.
I'm aware there has been some unpleasantness around town lately,
Mayor Mare said loudly.
Oh, great. She drew attention to it.
Applejack muttered.
And just when ponies were starting to enjoy themselves.
But, we shall rise above it,
Mayor Mare continued, clearly also realizing her error as ponies began to talk over her speech.
We Ponyvillians are strong, resilient ponies who have weathered far worse than some odd gifts from an unknown sender.
Odd gifts? I got a piece of intestine!
I got some pony's ear!
My daughter got an eyeball in a box!
I got a tongue!
I got a freaking heart!
I am aware that,
Mayor Mare stammered. Rainbow Dash grimaced.
She needs to stop talking. She's dying on her ass up there.
Mayor Mare looked around at the crowd she was rapidly losing.
That is to say,
Oh, little town of Ponyville, how bright your lanterns glow.
The first notes of a carol rose from the stage behind Mayor Mare, tentative and fragile, but hopeful. Lyra Heartstrings stood beneath the Hearthswarming tree, a single spotlight of enchanted glowstones bathing her in pale light. Her breath fogged in front of her muzzle. Mayor Mare whipped around in surprise at the interruption. Lyra shrank back, voice faltering.
Above your streets the winter greets with gently drifting snow.
The crowd murmured, uncertain. A few ponies away from Twilight, Bonbon reared up on her hind legs.
You've got this, Lyra!
She waved her forelegs.
Sing it out, baby.
Lyra's ears flicked toward her voice. The corners of her mouth lifted. Her voice became clearer this time, and as she moved into the melody, her nerves seemed to melt into the music. She sang without accompaniment, but her voice was so pretty that it did not matter.
Yet in your quiet starlit night, a tale is ever told of founders three who set us free from winter's icy hold. The carol was one every pony knew. It was sung in kitchens and classrooms across Equestria, each town substituting their own name for the opening lines. By the second verse, others in the square had begun to hum along. By the last, a gentle chorus of mismatching voices had joined hers. For long ago in ancient days, the tribes were locked in strife. The windigos with chilling blows sought to devour life. But Clover wise and Pansy brave and Cookie strong of heart found warmth anew as friendship grew and drove the cold apart. The glowstone lights shimmered against the falling snow, turning the scene almost ethereal, a perfect picture of Hearthswarming joy shared amongst everyone. From platinum proud to pudding head, from hurricane so bold, their quarrels ceased, the children released as harmony took hold. The fire of friendship blossomed then and banished every fear. So every year we gather here to keep its memory near. Oh, Hearthswarming in Ponyville, shine on through frost and fright. May every hearth rekindle forth the founder's guiding light. For in this town of peace and joy, their legacy is clear. Where friendships blend, the cold must end, and hope burns ever dear. When Lyra's final note faded, the air filled with hoofbeats and cheers. Mayor Mare trotted back on stage, her voice bright and overly chipper. She was clearly aware that Lyra's intervention had saved her.
She needs to realize that sometimes she shouldn't speak,
Applejack muttered.
A perfect start to our Hearthswarming Carol concert,
Mayor Mare announced.
Let's all thank Lyra Heartstrings for kicking off the evening with such heart.
The applause grew louder. Lyra blushed furiously as she stepped down from the stage and was immediately swept into Bonbon's embrace. The two kissed briefly, but tenderly, laughter bursting from them like a long-held breath finally released. That single spark of happiness seemed to ripple outward. Ponies smiled more easily, spoke louder, even laughed. The tension that had hung over Ponyville like a storm cloud all day seemed, at least for a few moments, to thaw. Twilight watched the laughter spreading through the square, a warmth she could not quite share catching in her chest. Around her, her friends wore the same strained smiles. Applejack's jaw tight, Fluttershy's ears low, Rarity's hoof absently stroking the fluffy hem of her winter coat. The joy was real, but so, Twilight feared, was the shadow still lingering beneath it. Other ponies took their turns on the stage, their voices weaving together in harmony as the audience joined in. Each note, each chorus, seemed to layer over the last in a delicate reminder of the year's joys and the simple magic of friendship and tradition. Twilight watched it all quietly from the edge of the crowd, the familiar warmth of Hearthswarming Eve pressing against the persistent anxiety behind her eyes. Despite the music, the lanterns, and the smiling ponies all around, tension ran through her, winding even tighter.
Her friends shared quiet smiles and gentle encouragements with each other, but even they could not fully shake the wary edge that clung to them after the past day's strange and unsettling events. Spike, sensing Twilight's unease, padded over and gently placed his claws on her shoulder. The touch was light but deliberate, clearly intended to be grounding. For a moment, Twilight allowed herself to be grounded. At his contact, she became acutely aware of just how knotted her shoulder muscles had become. The comforting weight of Spike's claws reminded her that she was not alone in carrying this unease, even if the rest of the world seemed to be back to celebrating without a care. She let out a slow breath she had not realized she had been holding. Twilight's gaze shifted back to the stage as a new group began to assemble. A choir of fillies and colts, now divested of their Hearthswarming play costumes. They shuffled into place with precision, forming neat lines and small clusters that hinted at the careful practice they must have undergone at school in preparation for tonight. Among them, Twilight spotted the Cutie Mark Crusaders and waved. The little trio waved back enthusiastically, faces bright with excitement. For a brief, confusing moment, Twilight expected to see a mare conducting the choir. She blinked in surprise to find instead a stallion standing confidently before the students, conducting stick raised as he prepared to guide their performance. Mr. Hardbright, no doubt. She paused, trying to understand why she had assumed anyone else would be there. The moment the school choir opened their mouths, a surge of something unnatural rippled through the air. Twilight felt the press of it against her, like a tide of cold water. Instantly, the starry sky above blacked out, as if the night itself had been erased. Thick, rolling fog slithered up from the edges of the square, coiling around buildings and ponies alike, forming a barrier that encased everything and everyone. The warmth of the Hearthswarming lights dimmed, swallowed by the oppressive pall that seemed to pulse with a life of its own. Bells began to toll somewhere in the fog. Every instinct Twilight had screamed at her to act and find the source of the invading dark fog before panic spread among the crowd. Panicked crowds became mobs, and mobs were unruly, devastating things that could trample the unwary without even realizing it. Yet the suffocating weight of the fog and the screams of frightened ponies made it almost impossible to think. Panic erupted among the school choir. Their intended harmonies dissolved into shrieks and frantic cries as Mr. Hardbright struggled to keep them under control. Twilight's heart sank as she watched several of them scatter off the stage and into the crowd, looking for their loved ones. Ponies tried to flee through the fog out of the town square, but bounced off as if they were running into a solid wall. The hooves of those who reared and bucked against it bounced back as if the vapor itself had substance. A deep, resonant voice rolled through the fog, seeming to come from everywhere and nowhere all at once.
Why are you trying to leave, little ponies? Come, join us at the winter wedding.
Panic suffused the crowd. Hooves stamped, wings beat, horns tossed into the air. Twilight could feel the edges of chaos curling around her, threatening to tip them into full-blown stampede. Her heart thudded. Granny Smith was here, as well as several other elderly citizens. The schoolfoals were mingled into the crowd. If the mob surged, they would be the first to be hurt.
I am the Princess of Equestria. It's my responsibility to keep them all safe against whatever this is,
she thought grimly. Twilight swallowed her fear and stepped forward. Drawing in a deep breath, she projected her voice.
What do you want?
Her neck arched back in surprise. She had been trying for a royal Canterlot voice, but all that had come out was her own shout. The fog seemed to shiver.
Do you not recognize me, Twilight Sparkle?
The deep voice carried a mocking lilt now, sharp and cold as frost on a steel blade. Twilight's eyes narrowed.
Have we met before?
Yes. Exactly 12 months ago this night, I met every pony in this town. I know you all
Gasps and startled cries rose around her. From the corner of her eye, Twilight saw Applejack's ears pin back, while Rainbow Dash stomped her hooves, standing protectively over a trembling Scootaloo. Twilight could not blame the filly for her reaction. The voice had an oily quality that made her feel like she was being painted by a soft brush dipped in vomit. She squared her shoulders.
I don't remember you.
And why is that? Certainly this lack of memory is not my doing. What did you do, little princess?
The words slithered over Twilight's pelt. She resisted the urge to shiver.
I have done nothing. You are the one threatening my ponies.
Your ponies? So you take responsibility for them?
They are mine to protect and mine to serve as their princess.
And so their transgressions are also yours. Interesting.
Enough cryptic talk. Who are you?
The shadows in the center of the stage thickened, twisting and writhing until they took on a vaguely pony shape. At first, it was only the suggestion of a figure. Equine, yes, but distorted. Then the details sharpened, chilling every onlooker. The creature towered above the crowd, frame impossibly tall. Its limbs were too long and had too many joints, ending in points that could barely be called hooves. These dug into the wooden boards on the stage, leaving score marks with every twitching step. The creature's coat was an inky black that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Where a mane should have hung, a writhing mass of shadow and spectral wisps stretched upwards and outwards, undulating as though caught in an eternal wind. The holes where eyes should have been glowed with bottomless dark light. It had neither whites nor pupils, only eerie luminescence that seemed to stare directly into Twilight's soul. Yet, most disturbing of all were the subtle hints of other forms within the darkness of its body. Faces of screaming creatures pushed upwards as if trapped under its rippling skin. Twilight spotted the curve of a griffin's beak, a set of claws that might have belonged to a dragon, and the distinct impression of a hippogriff's hoof. Her heart hammered against her ribs like a bird in a cage, but she forced herself to stand firm, knowing that this monstrous thing, whatever it was, needed to be confronted. She was what stood between it and her ponies, her friends. The thing smiled, and it was just as awful as Twilight imagined.
I am the groom.
The groom's voice rolled across the square, echoing from every shadow. His figure loomed over the ponies, black smoke curling off his limbs. The pale luminescence of his eyes burned into Twilight's mind with the weight of his presence.
And you are all guests at my wedding.
Twilight planted her hooves and inhaled a shuddering breath. No matter how scared she was, she would not let this creature harm the innocents around her.
Guests?
The groom's shadowed form shifted, the edges of his limbs dissolving into writhing black smoke that seemed almost to mock her questions. His voice lilted with cruel amusement.
Tonight you must celebrate with me. You do not have a choice.
I will not let you terrify or hurt these ponies.
The groom stepped down from the stage with a slow, deliberate grace, each pointed hooffall soundless against the cobbles. The fog recoiled around him as though afraid to touch him, yet his presence pressed down, suffocating as deep water and inescapable as sin. Twilight's defensive instincts flared. She lowered her horn, reflexively gathering magic at the tip to fire off if he tried anything. But nothing happened. No light, no hum, no shimmer of aura. Just silence. She tried again. Still nothing.
What? My magic!
The The groom laughed. It was a terrible, hollow sound, like wind moaning through the rafters of an abandoned church.
Your magic will not work here, little princess.
He took another step toward her. The space between them seemed to twist, air bending unnaturally, as though reality itself protested his presence.
I've cut out a piece of your world, lifted it free and wrapped it in my own void realm. Just as I did a year ago tonight. Just as I do every 100 years.
He said, voice almost tender, as though explaining a secret to a child. Twilight's wings flared, the Pegasus part of her alicorn nature coming to the fore since her unicorn horn had failed her. The Earth Pony part of her makeup urged her to just buck the groom into next Tuesday.
You're lying! That's impossible!
He smiled, or at least the suggestion of a smile moved beneath the flickering darkness where his mouth should have been.
Is it? You habitually spend time with the Lord of Chaos, little princess, and have seen him do much the same with his Chaos realm. Do you not feel it? The quiet beneath the fog, the way the world has stopped. Nothing exists for you or these ponies outside the barriers I have erected around this town square. You are all here at my will, and my will alone. I rule the void between worlds.
Now that he said it, Twilight noticed that the wind had dropped. No snow fell anymore. She could hear no sounds beyond the shallow breathing and the shuffling hooves of terrified ponies. Even the stars were gone, swallowed by the black dome above. She tried to reach out and feel her connection with the moon, and came up against a blockade that made her third eye feel blind. Her voice faltered.
No!
Yes.
The groom's burning eyes fixed upon her.
You are not in your world anymore, Twilight Sparkle. You stand in mine.
Why are you doing this?
The groom tilted his head, the motion simultaneously too smooth and jittery, like broken bones being forced to move.
As a gift for my bride.
Every nerve in Twilight's body started screaming. The way his voice caressed the word bride was downright fanatical.
What?
The groom's shape flickered, his grin widening and stretching up to where his ears would have been on a normal pony's face.
You really don't remember, do you? What did you do, little princess? Wipe your mind clean? Bury it under duty and sunlight and speeches about friendship?
He stepped so close that Twilight was forced to stumble backwards before she caught herself. She had to be strong. Her ponies were watching. They needed her to stay strong. The groom's eyes burned with a color that wasn't quite a color at all.
Was it so unbearable that you had to absolve yourself of it?
What are you talking about?
The groom's laughter bullwhipped out of him.
Then this will be a most tragic anniversary indeed.
His form wavered before blowing apart. Gasps rippled through the crowd as he dissolved into a swarm of drifting black vapor, curling and reforming around them in thin, grasping tendrils. The fog itself seemed to darken, as though his voice had soaked into it.
You all stand there pretending innocence, pretending you don't know. But you do. You all do. Underneath your precious princess's magic spell, you all know what you did.
Ponies pressed together in a panic. Twilight looked instinctively for her friends. Instead, she saw Lyra clutching Bonbon, Carrot Top shielding her face, Noteworthy cowering on the ground, and Big Mac standing firm before Sugarbelle and Granny Smith, though he trembled all the same. The groom's whisper slithered across the crowd.
You think time absolves you? You think forgetting forgives the sin? Some of you were the Hooves that did it. Others simply watched. And some were grateful. Because if it was done to another, it was not done to them.
A dreadful shudder went through the assembled ponies. Somewhere in the back of the crowd, a stallion called out,
"We didn't do anything!"
Oh, but you did. You all did. Some just have more to answer for than others.
The fog tightened, closing around the square, until Twilight could barely see the lights of the stage through the thickly pulsing dark. It seemed sticky in a way that should have been impossible for real fog. It felt as though she was being swallowed into the maw of a hungry, gigantic beast. The groom's voice rolled around her like a braid of silk and venom. The very molecules of the air vibrated with it. His words bounced around inside Twilight like they were echoing off her bones and internal organs, louder and louder, while also completely bypassing her ears. It felt invasive and ugly, and she urgently wanted it to stop so she could feel clean again.
Some of your crimes came after the deed. Some of you chose to forget. Some chose to listen to the begging of the guilty and grant them mercy that they did not deserve.
A mare whimpered somewhere in the fog. Twilight felt Spike's claws catch onto her leg. He had made his way over to her despite the awful darkness, and now stood beside her against the groom's onslaught. The prick of his claws once again helped to bring her back to herself.
Perhaps if you had resisted and borne your guilt as the price of your cowardice, this could have been avoided. But alas, weakness begets weakness.
Leave my ponies be! Whatever punishment you want to mete out, give it to me! Let them go!
In due time, little princess, I am the groom. I come to the mortal realm once every 100 years to choose a bride. A creature of light and life to power me for the next century in my void realm. I have been all over this realm in the centuries past. To Griffinstone and Saddle Arabia, Yakistan, and Plunder Town. Each place I visit, I choose my new beloved bride to be.
The groom's tone softened into something almost wistful.
1 year ago, I chose from Ponyville. I came in good faith and made my selection fairly. I do not take anyone who is not willing. I do not choose from those whose hearts already belong elsewhere.
Twilight's breath quickened. A horrible suspicion was beginning to coalesce in her mind. The fog curled around her hooves like something alive, recoiling and returning in slow breaths.
I am patient. I waited for the vows to be honored. I waited for her to be ready. I gave her the unlife necessary for her to exist in my void realm. And then we returned for our wedding day as promised.
His voice dropped to a hiss.
And what do I find? No garlands, no feasting, no songs sung in her honor, not even a whisper of her name, only lies and forgetting. You forgot what she did for the rest of you. You forgot what you did to her. My bride deserves a grand celebration. She deserves to be celebrated. At the very least, she deserves to be remembered and her efforts cherished by her old friends. But it seems her dear friends have forgotten her entirely, helped along by the magic of their dear, protected little princess. What cruelty! What ingratitude! But do not fear. The ceremony will still go on, and you all shall attend.
The crowd cowered, as the groom's words rolled through the fog-swamped square. Mothers held their foals tight. Ponies shielded their partners. Friends held on to each other. The air itself felt charged, as though one scream might act like a lightning rod for their collective pressure. Yet a few did not yield. Twilight kept her feet, wings still flared despite her lack of magic. Spike stayed by her side. Though his tail flicked nervously, he held his ground, chest puffed out as though he could block out the groom's presence through sheer will alone. Applejack stepped up on her other side, jaws set and eyes narrowed beneath the brim of her hat. Rainbow Dash joined her, the lack of magic not allowing her to get airborne, but her wings still beat in taunt, defiant rhythm. Rarity's trembling hoof covered her mouth, but she joined them too, along with Pinkie Pie, whose mane hung limp around her face, and Fluttershy, whose terror was almost palpable, but who did not let it stop her from standing with her friends against this terrible, eldritch threat. The groom's skull-like head emerged from the fog. He tilted it on a neck that was not there, regarding them with something between amusement and pity. The shadows behind him rippled like a sigh.
Even now the brave ones step forward. It is touching, but stupid. Very, very stupid.
We're not afraid of you.
Twilight's throat was tight, but she forced her words out. The groom's smile widened, a terrible crescent of lightless teeth.
A lie to comfort the heart, but I can taste the fear in your bones, little princess, and I remember how delicious it was the first time.
I'm the Princess of Equestria. I stand for all ponies. You can keep me here, but let everyone else go.
Twilight, no!
Spike gasped.
You speak for them as you did then. You keep such honor in your heart, little alicorn. Mayhap I should have chosen you as my bride, but no, your heart is bound elsewhere. Married to your role as leader, you will never truly fall in love with anyone or anything except your duty. You will always be thinking of your little ponies. My bride needs to think of nothing but me, and she will. Oh, she will. Especially now that she knows that you spent her sacrifice on memory spells and the shallow comfort of forgetting.
Who did you take last year?
Can't you see her? Look.
The fog parted to reveal an empty stage. Twilight squinted, but it remained bare.
She has been there the whole time we've been speaking. Did you truly do such a thorough job at exorcising her from your memories that you cannot even see her now that she stands before you? For shame, little princess. For shame.
The groom clicked a non-existent tongue against the roof of his non-existent mouth.
And after she tried so hard to warn you when she saw you had not prepared our wedding feast, she touched your dreams. But your spell-addled mind could not accept her message and twisted it up into nonsense. So she tried again, making her warning physical. She had hoped you and your friends would understand, Princess Twilight. And then, when you did not, she sent more warnings. She even spelled things out in flesh and bone. She spent the meager magic of her unlife trying to protect those who tried least to protect her in her living life.
The gift boxes.
Twilight's stomach dropped.
But I didn't sense any magic on them.
The magic of unlife is not of your realm. Your living spells could not perceive it.
But that's impossible.
You and your ponies are very good at convincing yourselves of impossibilities when they make you feel safe.
The groom's eyes swept the gathering. Ponies shrank back instinctively, as though the weight of his gaze might peel the truth from their hides by force.
She tried so very hard. When she first realized you had all forgotten, she wept for days. She begged me to let her see you again, to remind you of the promise you made, and make you remember the vows you all bore witness to. But though we may reach into your realm for a short time, when the nights become so dark and cold that they resemble my void, I can bring you into my realm only for my choosing and my wedding. But I am nothing if not faithful, Princess. I told her she would see you again on our wedding night.
Twilight's voice trembled despite her effort to steady it.
Who is she?
Look closer. Break through your spell, little princess. The power of friendship is a wondrous, glorious thing to you ponies, is it not? Well, she was your friend. You tell me who she is. And if you can't...
Threat dripped off his words like poisoned molasses. Thick and sweet and terrible. Twilight squinted so hard at the stage that the backs of her eyes hurt and her head began to ache. Yet every time she tried to focus on what he wanted her to see, her vision blurred and her mind recoiled, as if some part of her refused to recognize what it saw, or was physically unable to.
Did I really cast a memory wiping spell on myself? I can't see her.
The groom's grin cracked apart. His voice rose, echoing like the toll of a great bell.
You still can't see her? I waited a year for this night. A year of faith and patience. And still you cling to your blindness. Still you defy the bond I forged that you were supposed to honor this night.
Dark vapor burst outwards from his floating skull in sudden violence, rolling across the square. Ponies screamed, stumbling backwards as the cobblestone trembled beneath their hooves.
I will not wait any longer,
the groom roared. Twilight's very bone marrow quivered.
If you will not remember her on your own, then I shall undo your forgetting myself. And I will not be gentle in my ministrations.
Twilight barely had time to shield Spike before the groom's form split apart into hundreds of writhing ribbons of living shadow. These snaked through the air, cold as the grave, coiling around legs, necks, chests, and wings. Rarity shrieked as one wrapped around her throat. Fluttershy collapsed to the ground, clutching her head as one burrowed into her ear. Applejack bucked, but a ribbon hoisted her into the air by her hind legs. Rainbow Dash leapt to hold on to Applejack, but another ribbon dragged her back to the ground. Pinkie Pie whimpered, her mouth stuffed full of writhing darkness. The shadows descended upon them all, and when Twilight opened her mouth to call her friends' names, a shadow rammed itself so deep into her throat that she choked. Her lungs burned, and her vision clouded. She knew she hit the floor, but did not feel the impact. For a moment, there was only the cold and the dark.
Is this how I die?
Memory tore itself back into her in jagged flashes, each one a knife edge of sight and sound. She saw herself and her friends a year ago, celebrating her last Hearthswarming in Ponyville before she moved to Canterlot permanently. She saw them arriving at the carol concert, the same square, the same decorated tree, her friends shoulder to shoulder and laughing. She could feel again the brief, warm weight of belonging that had made that night feel like any other Hearthswarming, until the air changed. He had come then, too, manifesting from the dark, his presence folding the world inward. The groom announced himself with that same sharply velvet voice, and declared that he had come to choose a bride from among the mares gathered there. Every pony's magic had cut out at once. Pegasi, hovering above the square, had plummeted onto packed snow. Unicorn horns had gone dead mid-gleam. Confusion and fear had swept over everyone at how easily he affected their bodies. Applejack and Rainbow Dash had, nonetheless, lunged forward to protect their loved ones, and for a heartbeat, it seemed like brute force might end this threat where magic could not. Yet the groom had brushed them aside the way one would flick leaves from a cloak. Rainbow Dash's wing had snapped under the brutal force of his shadows, and Applejack's leg had fractured when he shoved her back. Despite their injuries, they had still crawled to shield each other when he approached them.
I do not want anyone whose heart belongs to another. I want a heart whose light and life can burn for me and me alone against the darkness of the void.
He had let his shadows sweep along the mares, peering, as he put it, into hearts, testing for secret promises, for twin loves, for attachments that would make them unsuitable brides. He moved among them with an intimacy that felt obscene, as if he were reading private diaries and old vows. Twilight had protested and tried to reason with him, but her words had fallen on deaf ears, and he had shoved his presence into her mind against her will, violating the privacy of her own brain before casting her aside as useless to his purposes. She had laid on the ground afterwards, shivering at her own defilement, until Spike reached her side and held her tight, the prick of his claws grounding her enough to sit up again. The groom had sheared 3 mares from the throng and set them on the stage like offerings. 1 unicorn, 1 Pegasus, and 1 earth pony. Twilight's memory vision keyed in on their faces, their names echoing through her mind like a knelling bell. Strawberry Sunrise, Cheerily, and Holly Dash. He told the town they must give him one of these 3 to become his bride. If they did, he had said, the rest of them would be spared. If they refused, he would make them suffer until they begged for the final release of true death. To prove himself, shadows flung outward from his body. Wherever they struck, ponies fell, their flesh cleaved from their bones. The crowd had watched in horror, so pure it stripped speech from their throats as the groom's power took life and then gave it back. The ponies, whose flesh had been sheared away, regrew it and screamed as muscles, veins, and arteries snaked up their bony legs. When he was done with them, he had turned his attention to another group of ponies and cut off their heads in a single swipe, sending blood cascading over those around them. The moment their necks were reattached, the decapitated ponies had begun to scream too. They had kept screaming as they were forced to helplessly watch him eviscerate, dismember, and mutilate their friends and family. The groom had killed and restored again and again, each blow as precise and terrible as his first. The effect was a staggering, intimate cruelty. The fallen were stitched back together by that same dark will, and then scattered again, over and over, in a demonstration of how flimsy mortality was inside his reach. This tiny pocket of his realm allowed him to completely control them. Only the 3 mares on the stage were spared, while the rest of Ponyville was endlessly murdered and brought back. They were left intact. Twilight herself was pulled under that tide more than once, sensation collapsing into nothing, then reconstituting with a new scar of memory each time. She remembered her own voice screaming until the groom had pulled out her vocal cords, and she could only watch in silence as he dangled Spike in front of her and forced her to watch him pull off the little dragon's wings, arms, legs, and head, then dropped his bloody torso into her lap, where they regrew. She recalled the moment Spike's eyes reappeared and stared at her with unseen, gibbering terror. Only when the school choir were wiped out did things change. Cheerily's shout cut through the fog as she had stepped forward, and offered herself up to stop the slaughter. She had begged to go with the groom to spare the others. The groom's expression, if such a thing could be said to exist in that writhing shape, had softened into something almost reverent.
You have passed the test. I sought a heart capable of choosing of her own volition. One who would voluntarily bind herself to me. You, little teacher, are worthy to be my bride.
He had murmured, as if speaking only to Cheerilee, even though all could hear him. Strawberry Sunrise and Holly Dash had flown off the stage as if smacked away by an invisible force and landed amongst the traumatized crowd. Twilight had not even had the energy left to investigate whether they had been hurt. From the mist that composed the groom's form, a ring had coalesced, silver as frozen moonlight. He had taken Cheerilee's trembling hoof in his pointed ones and slid it onto her fetlock, where it had shimmered and sunk into her flesh. Twilight remembered Cheerilee's pupils becoming rimmed with silver. She remembered feeling regret, but also relief that this would make the endless cycle of death and resurrection stop. Then guilt that she should feel relieved at what was happening to one of her citizens, her ponies. But even then, the torture had not been over.
One more part of the ritual, and then I shall leave this night, Ponyville. To free yourselves from this pocket of my void realm, you must give me my bride as an unliving gift. She must be yielded to me in death, so that I may remake her in unlife in my realm. Only then will the binding between us be complete.
Twilight's chest had tightened as the implication resolved itself into a single, unbearable truth. He had wanted them to kill Cheerilee and give her corpse to him.
If you do not, this will never end.
The groom had gestured, and a whip of black shadow had cracked across the square. Wherever it lashed, ponies were struck down. Flesh regrew from their shattered, screaming forms.
I cannot live without the light and life of a bride's soul, and I will make your suffering last for the rest of my remaining years.
Twilight had yelled for every pony to stop, to find another way, to refuse this monstrous bargain. She and her friends had formed a line between the stage and the crowd, voices raised, pleading for reason and mercy. She remembered being so proud of her friends for standing beside her then, despite all they had endured. However, in a display that felt like a sacrament and a slaughter all at once, the terror the groom had seeded had flowered into frenzy. The crowd, roiling with fear and desire to survive, became a mob and rushed the stage. They had overwhelmed those standing nearest, and, in a moment of collective hysteria, they had ripped Cheerilee apart. Twilight's ears rang with her cries. She remembered, with a clarity that made her stomach hollow, the awful, endless moments when the groom's power had made the living obey in spite of themselves. Pleas turned into hooves and wings and horns, all slick with blood. The crowd, having been turned from bystanders into participants, gathered what they believed to be proof of their compliance and brought it before the groom, begging with raw voices that they be released, that the murders stop, that he please spare them. Some in the square had tried to step forward and failed. Granny Smith had lashed out and tried to beat back ponies while shielding Apple Bloom. Big Mac had tried to use his bulk to block the staircase at the edge of the stage. The ponies had pulled him away and pinned him down so he could not use his great strength to stop them. Others had stayed on the cobblestones of the square, weeping and trembling, but unable to act. Twilight remembered seeing Lyra and Bonbon there, clutching each other, their eyes shut so they could not see the butchery. Memories flowed into Twilight, horrible in their clarity. ponies she had once called neighbours, on the stage, presenting bloody items to the groom, ripping and tearing at the mess that used to be Cheerilee, to please him. She saw faces she recognised in flashes that made her gorge rise. Sugar Belle tugging Cheerilee's lower jaw until it snapped off. Carrot Top wrenching her forehooves upwards to hold aloft a shiny kidney. Noteworthy with hooffuls of purple mane pulled out at the roots. Mayor Mare holding out part of a spinal column as a token of compliance. Twilight's mind dissolved into a soundless, helpless grief as she remembered everything against her will, each flash threading together into a tapestry of horror she had kept buried until now. She saw again the moment they had all been returned to Ponyville. Fog vanished, and streets beyond its barrier unchanged, as if no time had passed at all. She saw every pony's faces twisted with a trauma that could not be erased. She remembered the pleading and the frantic cries of the townsfolk, begging her to cast a spell to make them forget what they had done, and what had been done to them. Bewildered, exhausted, and more than a little dissociative, she had agreed before she could think it through, or even refine the spell properly. Her newly restored magic had billowed out of her like a tide, smoothing over memories, excising their suffering, and dulling the grief into pleasant nothingness. Twilight fell back into reality with a gasp.
Now you remember.
Her stomach roiled as she raised her eyes to the stage. Beside the groom stood Cheerilee, or at least something that had once been Cheerilee. Her eyes glimmered with a haunting mix of sorrow and anger, her form pale and strange beneath a wedding dress that looked as though it had been spun from midnight gloom and the moonbeams that tried to pierce it. Her entire body was covered in scars from where the town had ripped her apart, and the groom had put her back together again in his void realm. She was recognizable, but the look in her eyes was one of sadness and betrayal as she surveyed the ponies she had tried to save, but who had sacrificed her to the groom to save themselves instead. The groom's voice cut through the tense hush like a blade.
Behold, my bride.
Cheerilee's gaze swept over the assembled ponies, lingering on Twilight. Twilight's throat tightened as the weight of what she had done and what she had failed to prevent settled fully on her shoulders.
I'm sorry.
She tried to say.
I'm so sorry.
Cheerilee's spectral voice carried across the square, resonating like wind through bare branches.
You chose to forget.
She did not sound like the pony Twilight now remembered. She sounded more like the groom than the Cheerilee of old.
You chose to absolve yourselves of what you did to me, so that you might go on with your lives. I suffered in the groom's realm as he put me back together, gluing my body together with the magic of unlife. I suffered a whole year when I told myself it was okay, because I had done it for all of you, and at least you'd memorialize me. I love this town and the ponies in it. I loved your children and did all I could to protect them in life and in death. I told myself all my pain was worth it. But you forgot me. You forgot everything I did for you. Do you ponies understand how much that hurts?
Several ponies in the crowd began to cry. Twilight heard whispered apologies, though no one raised their voice enough to be singled out.
But I still loved you all enough to try and protect you from yourselves. I couldn't fully cross the veil between worlds until tonight. but I thought that if I provided clues through what little magic I could wield after my rebirth into unlife, I could make you remember, and you would understand what you were supposed to do to save yourselves.
Twilight's mind was already piecing together the puzzle of the gift boxes in light of all this new information. They were not random at all. Each item had been part of a breadcrumb trail from Cheerilee, shaped by the void magic forced upon her and designed to communicate across the veil between worlds and the collective amnesia that Twilight's hastily cast spell had imposed. Her heart clenched as understanding formed. The gifts were cheerily reaching out, trying to tell them what had happened and what would happen if no one acted. Twilight's breath hitched, and tears pricked her eyes. She could finally see the method behind the horror. Only, it was too late now.
I tried to make you remember, but your alicorn magic was too strong. It was born of love and a desperate wish to protect your little ponies, even from their own memories. That love built a wall higher than I could reach. I don't blame you, Princess Twilight. I saw you trying to save me that night. I know you were only trying to do what was best. But you failed.
The crowd flinched at her words, shame and dawning horror settling over them. The ponies of Ponyville could not meet Cheerilee's gaze. The weight of what they had done pressed down on every trembling heart in the square.
We can hold your wedding now,
Mayor Mare blurted.
Oh no.
Applejack croaked.
Stop talking, you dang fool.
Right now, here in the town square. We've already decorated, after all.
Mayor Mare insisted.
We can throw something together.
The groom turned his head toward her, the air growing suddenly heavier, colder.
You would throw something together,
he said, his tone a low, velvety hiss. His shadowed form pulsed with fury.
You would make our union a last-minute arrangement, a party favor to soothe your own fear.
Mayor Mare flinched back.
No, I had only meant...
A dark tendril whipped out from the groom's chest. It cleaved Mayor Mare's head from her shoulders.
Silence.
Her body went limp and dropped where it stood. Her head landed several feet away, at the feet of a cluster of ponies, eyes wide and glassy with shock. This time, she did not resurrect. Twilight was not sure whether that was better or worse. The groom turned his gaze to the trembling ponies before him.
My bride waited a year for your love. You will not placate me with scraps of pity. There will be no mockery of our ceremony. There will be a wedding worthy of her suffering, or there will be none at all.
Twilight stared at Mayor Mare's crumpled body, the snow beneath her already soaked red with her blood. Her mouth went dry. For a moment, she could not hear anything but the dull, hollow thud of her own heartbeat. He had killed with such carelessness just for speaking out of turn. She had died for the wrong words. What would he do if they performed the wrong actions? Slowly, she looked up at the groom, at that rippling, impossible silhouette that seemed to drink in the light of the torches. Her voice came out, small but steady.
What would satisfy you?
At last, a sensible question. A wedding is not a thing to be patched together. It must be earned. It must be felt. You all owe my bride a celebration worthy of her devotion and of your guilt.
He gestured toward Cheerilee.
She will have her vows, her music, her feast and her procession. just as all beautiful brides deserve. You will sing, you will dance, and you will honor what she gave up for you.
Twilight felt the whole square tilt under the weight of what she was about to do. Her knees trembled. Spike's claws dug into her flank. Around them, the crowd waited with the brittle sort of hope that clings to the smallest possible relief.
She
began, voice thin. She forced herself to steady it.
If this is what will spare every pony, if it will stop more harm, then I will do whatever is needed. Give me back my magic for a few moments, and I will make a wedding celebration fit for a true princess of Equestria.
She met Cheerilee's hollow gaze.
It's the least Cheerilee deserves for what she did for us, for what we did to her.
The groom's head tilted to one side in a slow, amused motion.
Very well. But why should I trust you with power again, little princess? You are the one who scrubbed their memories clean. You are the one who hid the truth. Why will you not use your alicorn magic to strike at me the moment I return it?
All eyes swung to Twilight. She felt the judgment of the town as clearly as if each pony's hooves pressed against her shoulders.
I swear on my honor as Princess of Equestria that I will not use my magic to harm you while I wield it. After I'm done, you can take my magic away again until you're satisfied.
Before the groom could answer, Cheerilee stepped forward.
Twilight's word is all this town has to bargain with. She is the highest authority here. I believe her, my love.
The groom regarded Cheerilee for a long moment.
So be it,
he said finally.
Little alicorn, I will restore to you the use of your magic for the length of one task, to conjure a wedding worthy of my bride and your savior. You will not use it for any other purpose. If you break this bargain, I will end you in whatever manner I please, for as long as I please.
Twilight swallowed.
I accept.
Fog washed over her. She tasted iron. Her horn hummed. Taking a breath, Twilight lifted her chin. The light of her magic was wrong and right at the same time. Familiar, but colder at the edges, as if the groom's dark fog threaded through her spell. Her aura flowed into the air, not like the bright, clean arc she usually used, but like silver smoke unfurling into gold, the glamour of conjuration tethered to a watching shadow. Around the square, ponies craned their necks. An expectant hush fell. Twilight began to work. She felt every motion under the groom's unseen gaze, and with each item she called into being, she tasted her oath, like a stone in her mouth. She started with the wedding feast. What took form was magnificent and horrifying. Mountains of steaming pies, platters of roast and jewel-bright fruits, carafes that never emptied of Sweet Apple Acres' best cider, candles that burned without wax, an enormous, multi-tiered cake that would have made Pinkie proud appeared on a table that had previously been a wheelbarrow. The magic was true, generous, and unmistakably hers, and every piece of it carried the faint, bitter thread of the bargain that had birthed it. Cheerilee watched as Twilight worked, her expression unreadable. The groom watched, patient as a god counting beetles. Twilight moved on to converting the Hearthswarming decorations into wedding garlands. Chairs appeared, bedecked in lace and ribbons. An aisle formed. Mayor Mare's podium was dragged over to become an altar. Once the town square had been transformed into a grotesque parody of joy, Twilight turned to the crowd. She saw the grim faces of her friends and pushed down her fear for them. With each spell she cast, ponies found themselves clothed in finery fit for royal wedding guests. Dresses and suits draped trembling bodies. Veils fluttered where there was no wind. Flowers bloomed in their manes and tails.
Don't forget the bridesmaids and ring bearer,
the groom reminded. Rarity raised a hoof to get Twilight's attention, gesturing to herself and their friends. Twilight nodded and conjured beautiful gowns for them all. A small suit slipped over Spike's scales, and a velvet cushion landed in his claws.
It's done.
Twilight panted.
A winter wedding, fit for a princess.
The groom looked to Cheerilee, who nodded.
It will do.
He tossed his head, and a pair of rings appeared on Spike's pillow.
Let us commence with the ceremony.
The square exhaled as one. The wedding was ready. The terms were set.
But your officiant is dead.
He gestured to Mayor Mare's rapidly cooling corpse. Twilight had dusted her in rose petals to try to hide her, but he blew them away, revealing the still sluggishly bleeding stump of her neck.
Who will marry us?
I will,
Twilight said resolutely.
It's the least I can do with my authority as ruler.
The groom nodded approvingly. Twilight took up her post as the ponies in the square seated themselves on either side of the aisle. Applejack pushed a crying Apple Bloom into a seat, while Rainbow Dash briefly wrapped a wing around a trembling Scootaloo, and Rarity pressed Sweetie Belle against her side to stifle her tears. Then all three took up their spot. The groom stood tall beside the altar, his outline wavering at the edges, not quite holding shape, but his eyes never left the aisle. Twilight stood stiffly, her magic held in check by the invisible thread binding her to them. As a bridal march played, her friends made their way up the aisle in pairs and took up positions either side of the altar. When Cheerilee herself began her slow walk up the aisle, even the fog seemed to part for her. Ponies fell silent as she passed, some turning away, others stifling sobs behind their hooves. A few reached out as if to stop her, Apple Bloom among them. Granny Smith pulled her back before her hoof could make contact with her old teacher. Cheerilee reached the front, and the groom inclined his head in something resembling courtly respect. Then, from the middle of his chest, he drew forth a long, curling scroll and offered it to Twilight.
Read. If you are to marry us, then you must do it properly.
Twilight hesitated. The parchment felt wrong beneath her magic. Was it made from skin? Still, she had sworn an oath. Her ponies were counting on her. She unrolled it and began to read aloud.
The wedding of the shadow and the flame.
The groom smiled down at Cheerilee. It was not the cruel smile Twilight had witnessed before, but a soft one that barely curved the slash of his mouth. She realized, with deep dismay, that he loved Cheerilee.
An endless dark where stars decay. I name the realm in which you stay, a throne of cold where echoes roam. O groom, this void is called thy home. Before thee stands, through fear and woe, the mortal heart whose warmth shall glow, thy chosen bride, whose living flame shall bind her soul unto thy name. For 100 winters she shall be thy lantern in eternity, a light to gild thy frost and gloom, to bloom and shadow like a tomb. And when the suns to cinders fall, and time forgets the mortal call, she shall, in silken darkness spun, join those who serve as thou art one. Thy former brides in quiet keep their vows within thy fathoms deep. They whisper, soft beneath thy will, yet love thee, mourn thee, serve thee still. And thou, O groom, in shadows crowned, bestow on her, by oath now bound, the secret wish her heart would claim, the dark desire without a name. The fire unfading, deathless, whole, that burns within the tethered soul. So by this rite, this vow, this claim, the bride steps forth without her name. And in the void where love is pain, she shall be joined and whole again.
When Twilight's voice fell silent, The fog seemed to deepen. Every word hung in the air. It felt like she had just cast another spell.
Repeat after me, my dark delight.
Purred the groom, lifting one of the rings off Spike's pillow and slipping it onto his own pointed leg.
I do.
Cheerily did not flinch as he slipped the other ring over her fetlock.
I do.
The rings blazed. A pulse of black light surged from the groom's chest, curling around her. Her eyes flashed, and his shadows swallowed her whole. Twilight staggered back as the mist exploded upward like a cyclone. Ponies screamed.
Stay in your seats! Don't move!
When the wind died, Cheerily stood transformed beside the groom, her eyes now shining silver.
Efficient.
Twilight stammered.
I now declare you, husband and wife. You may now kiss the bride.
The kiss was tender and grotesque and everything in between. Twilight sagged. She had done it. For the first time since this nightmare began, she dared to hope. The groom seemed satisfied at last. His new bride stood beside him. For one aching heartbeat, the shadows held still. Perhaps, she thought, this was it. Perhaps they had done enough to appease him. Maybe they would all walk away from this alive.
But what is a wedding without gifts?
The hope in Twilight's chest froze solid. The crowd stirred uneasily. Ponies glanced at each other and then at her. She felt their collective gaze settle on her, pleading, terrified. The princess would know what to do. The princess always did. She would protect them. That was her duty. Twilight swallowed.
I can conjure some gifts for you.
She cursed herself for forgetting that in all her decorating. The groom's laugh rippled through the air.
Not for me, sweet little princess. I have all I could ever desire. My bride is my treasure. It is her happiness that concerns me.
What gifts would you like, Mrs. Cheerily?
Cheerily's head tilted toward Twilight. When she smiled, it held no warmth. Her teeth gleamed in the gloom, sharpened into fangs.
You have done enough, Twilight,
she said gently.
You have made your amends to me. I forgive you for what you did. I do not want you to conjure my wedding gifts.
As soon as the words left her mouth, the air shimmered. All across the square, red gift boxes tied with neat crimson ribbons whispered into existence on every pony's laps. A ripple of horror spread through the crowd. Ponies stood and backed away, some crying out, some refusing to even look at them. Twilight's breath hitched, her horn sparked instinctively, but no light came. The groom had turned off her magic once more. She turned desperately toward Cheerily.
What is it you want from them?
Cheerily's expression softened into something mocking and tender.
Oh, Twilight. I already showed everyone what I want. Don't you remember?
She turned her gaze on the crowd.
For my wedding gifts, I ask only for fairness. If I am to forgive their transgressions against me, then my guests are to give me the equivalent of what I gave them 12 months ago.
Gasps, screams, sobs. Ponies pressed against each other as though they could manifest a way out of this situation by will alone.
Give of yourselves what you gave away of me.
Cheerily's voice rose, rich with the groom's magic.
Flesh for flesh, bone for bone, blood for blood. Let my wedding feast be made of truth. And if even one of you does not give me my rightful gift, then all of you will suffer my husband's displeasure.
Twilight looked out across the sea of faces, all wide-eyed with fear and dawning realization. Her gaze snagged on two faces in the crowd, Sugarbelle and Carrot Top. Both mares stared down at their gift boxes, eyes glassy with terror. They understood. They all understood. Cheerily laughed then, a sound that was both hers and not hers, echoing up into the starless void above. Her laughter rolled across the square like a dirge dressed in the sound of wedding bells.
Happy Hearthswarming, Ponyville!